Board game news. News with a disclaimer there. I am the anti-hype for the most part. I am the check yourself at the door so that you're not getting too hyped up by stuff and going out and buying stuff you don't need. Taking it with a little bit of a temperament. Temperament, my temper. Anyway, but also giving you all of the latest going-ons, if you will. Lots of expansions, sequels, iterations today. What do you need to know? And we'll do some anti-hotness as well on the Board Game Geek and why I hate the hotness in general. Let's go. You know what? Let's just stay with the big stuff. Let's stay with the CMONs of the world. Because, you know, this is what you guys want to know about, right? Right? CMON is giving us, if I haven't said it 1,000 times in this channel, not 1,000, but I've said it at least 50, video games, tabletop. Video games, tabletop. CMON somehow acquired Gods of War. You're going to see them come to crowdfunding, throwing miniatures at this in a Mythic Ragnarok style of way sometime in the middle of 2024. That's all we know. Are you appeased by that? I'm going to be doing a video shortly in the near future that's going to say, hey, if you backed multiple projects of a company right now, what would happen if one of these companies folded? Not that one of these companies is going to fold, but how screwed would you be if you backed multiple projects from the same company and they folded, especially at these higher pledge amounts? You know, having your eggs all in one basket. Do you care about Gods of War? How portable are some of these things nowadays? I have no idea. The market is just saturated by it, and what seems to do Witcher levels of things and what doesn't, which is pretty much everything not Marvel, really is kind of torn. Yeah, they're going to raise $2 or $3 million, but is it going to be a 5 or, gosh forbid, a 7? I mean, 2 or 3 ho-hum nowadays, right? That's what we've got going on. And the other interesting thing here, the other very interesting thing, and we'll segue right into this, staying with CMON here. The next CMON campaign-ish, maybe, question mark, beginning of 2024, it's going to be over in Gamefound. Now, let's talk about this for a second. The latest Gamefound Feast. Doing my best Randy Orton pose here. You know, as an apex predator on crowdfunding, what do you need to know about this? What do you need to think about this with CMON going over to Gamefound? We're going to talk about the Gamefound effect in a second here with Feast, because there's one other big name that's recently ported over there that, you know, has had diminishing returns. Say what you will. But they're coming back with their Masters of the Universe 80s looking plastic style game that, you know, to be frank, underachieved. Pulling some nostalgia where there really wasn't a whole lot to begin in the first place. I would argue that besides the Camelot one from earlier this year, that's probably the most underperforming one they've had in the last 2 or 3 years. So is it just going to be a pure reprint? Is that really why they're going over to Gamefound? Because that's the only thing I can think of off the top of my head, is that they're saying, we're going to give you just the same thing. Now, this was like only a North America thing, so maybe that's the other, you know, with, was it Archon, or I forget who did the other one, but that was only Europe, and then CMON was only North America. They split the IP. Why the switch? Folks, the switch is purely for this. There is absolutely, from a backer perspective, absolutely zero benefit. It's all about the cash, which leads me into the next one. We'll pull up the Gamefound Feast page here and we'll run through all of them. But the other notable on this Feast one is tabletop adjacent, tabletop not usually covered by Liege of Games, is Dwarven Forge, right? The super deluxe, putting the D in deluxe. As in Dwarven Forge begins with a D. Anyway, they are also on Gamefound. And now this will be their second project on Gamefound. Why am I harping on this? Well, because I think Dwarven Forge suffered the Gamefound effect when they went over from Kickstarter to Gamefound. I'll make the argument that board games at least have made some traction over on Gamefound. You know, anything not top tier on Gamefound suffers. It's true. Few and far between actually make significant headway on Gamefound, but there are some. So, you know, that being said, however, RPGs have not been one of them. RPGs have not been one of them at all. The RPG crowd is solidly, squarely You see it on a week-by-week basis when you do the crowdfunding surfing on the Kickstarter page like I do, throwing up hundreds and hundreds and thousands of dollars on a weekly basis there. And now you're going over to a place where there's not really an established niche. You're only going to get the hardcore followers in the first place. Want proof? Let's talk. So here you can see creative projects. 2, Wildlands and Starforged, the upcoming one. Wildlands, you can see down here, $963,000. $963,000 is great, folks. It's great. It's bad for Dwarven Forge. 811 backers. 800 backers for $900,000. Don't do the math there. Talking about disposable income, that's your, these people. But let's go and let's look at the last 3 prior to that on Kickstarter. Now, I'm going to do these in a specific order, right? Hellscape, right here, in case you can't see. This was not the most recent, not the second most recent. This was years ago. This was like 4 years ago. Let's scroll down here. Let's see. This was actually, this was funded 4 years ago, folks. And if you look, double the number of backers, 1.2 million. Now, obviously, less price per backer there. Dwarven Forge has definitely had some inflation too. Don't kid yourself. But still, twice the number of backers. Okay, Chris, you know what? And again, this wasn't the most recent. So it's not like they dipped down by $300,000 or $400,000, folks, right? So then we go over to Wildlands. So the second most recent of them, 3,500 backers, $4 million. In case you can't see that, $4 million. Four. Better than a vast majority of all crowdfunded board games not named like CMON, like I said, or Awakened Realms on crowdfunding in the first place. Now that is a huge drop-off. Now you're going to say, Chris, you know what? It's clearly because this is just a more popular Wildlands. And, this is Wildlands Reforged, though. I mean, this is, a better version of that. So is it just saturation from that? Okay, yeah. Must be. Here's Cities. Cities Untold. This is the most recent one. 2,600, so 3 times the number of backers and almost about 4 times the amount of money. So, Starforged? I have no idea. But, folks, that's a huge drop-off, even if you think some of it is, this is a set they've already put out, Chris, and people have gotten it at retail. Dwarven Forge puts out a good product, and like a lot of the higher-end companies, they offer a cheaper price on crowdfunding than at retail. And so people who are going to get it, they're going to get it here. That's crazy. That's a crazy amount of drop-off, though. Let's pull up the Feast page, though, as you can see. Here, who has the power? Who has the power? I have a t-shirt that says Grayskull Power Company. No one ever gets what that's about. Starforged, okay, great. Last Light 2nd edition and Alien expansion pack. If you don't think this is hammering home on the hype and the hotness, just like everything else, it literally has been delivered in the last month. It's barely at retail at this point. I see a little bit of it showing up on the secondary market now, but I don't know how many, factions this game already has, but apparently you need more. It needs other spacefaring Twilight Imperium level of factions or more. It needs like Cosmic Encounter level of factions. I feel like that's what they're going for here. Retail is going to cost you almost $100 for this game in the first place, before you even get the expansion and before you get the new factions and an upgraded rulebook. Let's tee for time out here for a second. Let's get on a side rant here. Liege famous side rants. Why half of you probably subscribed to me in the first place, right? Anti-hype. Holy forking shirt balls, Batman. An upgraded rulebook? I just read through the rulebook of Senjutsu. Like, talk about things that need an upgraded rulebook, right? Holy crap, that's a whole nother. But an upgraded rulebook already. What is wrong with the QA that is happening on this scene? No one cares, to be frank, is really what it is. They care about the art. We care about deluxifications. We don't care about the rules. Technical writers, people who have not played the game should be combing through these rule books and being the people that have to say the final say. And it's clear and evident with too many games, crowdfunded or not, although it does happen more on crowdfunding. I'll swallow that pill. It happens more on crowdfunding. But what the deuce? Like, how is that enticing, folks? People are going to be like, well, Chris, as long as you know how to play the game, someone can explain. I don't want to have to watch a rules video to learn how to play a game. I am adamant. This is a hill in our hobby that I will die on. Should have to never watch a video to learn how to play a game. If I do, it's a failure for your product in the first place. I will fight you in the comment sections down below if you think otherwise. You are wrong. Anyway, it's going to be a ton of money, I guess. You know, Ice, I don't know. I did their other game, and sorry, see, just one from the other. Dice Tower gives it an approval, though. 9 out of 10. I haven't played it. I thought their other one was actually rather clever. None of you watched that review. I thought it was really, really a good game, and it's going to surprise people. It's heavy abstract, take that, but it was a fantastic game once you got past the initial learning curve. The rulebook was fine. The learning curve, woo, that was another one. But I didn't know there was demand for it, but apparently there's going to be demand for it. So take that for what you will. Colosseum and Colosseum Ave Titus. This is coming late. This is coming late. These are from the folks bringing you Unconscious Mind. They're giving us another, I don't know, like the third or fourth version of Colosseum in the last like decade, but they're giving it to you with, again, enhanced rules. Oh my goodness gracious, enhanced rules. You know, again, it reads like a restaurant menu, folks. Enhanced rules, advanced rule book. That's just lingo, hype speak for saying we kind of crapped the bed the first time around, so we're going to give it to you a little bit better this time. And I'm not saying they did specifically, but again, rules should not be that complicated. I said this in another video, I think a week or two ago. The designer of Concordia was like, hey, look, guys, my Concordia rulebook is like 5 pages long. You don't need a 40-page rulebook to have a great, freaking, fantastic, test the time of game. And you don't. Deluxe parts, sure, great. New expansion, awesome, fantastic. Never played it. Wolfgang Kramer, good pedigree. Feudum, coming more, 7th edition. 7th anniversary edition. I don't know, 7th? 7th? Come on. That's such a random number. That's just pulling a number out of a hat and saying, let's, you know, at least 5 and 10s are rounded and people somewhat anticipate those. I mean, that's like your 7th wedding anniversary. And no one knows what that is. Copper wool and desk sets. Who includes desk sets in a 7-year anniversary gift? Anyway, I have their other game, and I'm not sure if it's Fled is going to be coming out like before, after, during with this one, but that was a very interesting tile laying game. Very interesting. And I actually have it done filmed. I've had it sitting in my queue for like 2 months, and so I should really get that one done. Anyway, Fief is getting more. I think Shut Up and Sit Down really loved this game. I have no clue. This one, it was like Game of Thrones, only actually Game of Thrones. So more Fief, or is this going to be something different? I don't know. And this has been kind of on the latest hotness. Robot Quest Arena BattleBot. BattleBots, bot battle, you know, same thing, same difference. 4 newer robots, bigger arena. Deck builders scare me nowadays. Creep, right? Aeon's End creep. Marvel Legendary creep. That's what scares me with this one, because they deluxified the heck out of a deck building game somehow, right? In case, you know, other genres weren't deluxified enough, now we're creeping into the deck building side of things. So there you go. That's what you need to know. That's what the Feast has going on right now. Does that scare you? Does that really hype you up in that sense? Do any of them? Randy Orton question mark pose? And in case you're not familiar with Randy Orton is a very famous, legendary WWE wrestler. He is known as the Apex Predator. He just came back from injury in his return, and just kind of he's a guy. He's a guy. You can go Google him. So what else do we got going on? I mean, those were the huge ones, right? Well, let's not stray too far, even though it was on my list of personal letdowns. Earth. They officially announced in the forums, the updates, the comments, whatever it was, Earth will have an expansion, you know, from Inside Up Games, officially sometime in 2024. I'm assuming crowdfunding, so, you know, you can mark it on your calendars of 2025, middle of that to get it. So a year and a half from now. So hype that one up, folks, a year and a half from now. Well, what else we got going on? Well, you know, a recent Essen release. Right? World Wonders, which, you know, from Arcane Wonders has not necessarily even been hardly available in North America for that long, also announced an expansion. You gotta strike while the iron is hot, folks. Mundo, the Mundo expansion. I guess so, right? I guess so. But speaking of the iron is hot, and Cascadia landmarks, I reviewed on the channel where I said, okay, Cascadia landmarks, half good, half kind of throw it out the window because I'm never going to use a 5 to 6 player expansion. They just announced they're going to have 2 new roll and writes. Roll and writes. People in the comment section were like, isn't that kind of already close to a roll and write in and of itself? Is it really that far away? And I'm like, well, that's actually not a bad argument as a whole. And they are Cascadia Rolling Hills and Cascadia Rolling Rivers. Now, it says a puzzly flippin' right, but you're going to have a unique, special central die, and you can play with up to 1 to 8 players on. Now, this is actually, being a little bit facetious aside, 8 different maps. Okay, you've got sort of the cartographer's thing going on. But as I also saw in the comment section, a very apropos comment, a lot of the roll and write games that are based off of previous IPs feel like they have to follow the previous IP too close in order to stay with it and feel a little forced, as opposed to some of the original, this is solely a roll and write-esque game, are somewhat better. Now, you can fight me in the comment section about that one too, but I can't really argue with that one. But the problem with each of these is that they're splitting them up. They're going, the other Railroad Ink style, right? They're giving you 4 in each. So you're going to have to buy them both and spend, I don't know, probably $70+. $70+, folks. $70+. That's why I'm anti-hype. $70+ for a roll and write. That's going to get you hyped, right? Now, like with all of Flat Out's other Cascadia stuff, you're going to get a little promo pack and a little mini expansion. New gameplay elements, new scoring bonuses, competitive objectives. So, I mean, I can't say I won't end up with a copy, but crowdfund it? Question mark, we'll see. Because I'm sure, well, actually, you know what? I take that back. Sarcasm back. Roll that one back in. I don't know. Landmarks didn't go. We'll see. I could see it. Actually, I'm gonna guess crowdfunding though. So we'll see. We'll see where that one goes. I'm going to slide this next one in here because no one's paying attention to this part of the video. GOSU X, one of my best games of 2023. Guarantee this will be on my top 10 of the year later in this month. This one is they're actually giving the extra expansion. There's a problem. We Are French, I think, was the publisher, and they had said for a while there's an extra faction that goes along with it, and it was only going to be made over in Europe, and it was in French. And so people were like, on the forum section, they were like begging, like all half a dozen of us, right? And they finally announced that it's going to be coming over to North America. So that is probably the only thing on this whole video that I'm going to guarantee you that I will have in my collection, because that is a freaking amazing game. Don't care. It's not going to be on anyone else's top 10 list because I don't think it got widely sent out to a bunch of reviewers, and it's just kind of flown completely under the radar. But if you have tastes like I do, I highly recommend that game. Now, let's go on past that. Sequel expansions. We are getting more Among Cultists. The massively heavy, you are, Cthulhu-esque cultists trying to summon an old god. I'll have a review out shortly. They sent me a review copy. And you are getting more content. You're getting a reprint and a new expansion, somehow, Ultimate Edition. What does that entail? I don't know. I mean, it already has 2 expansions to go along with it, just, on top of the base game. I feel like they're going for the equivalent of a Blood on the Clock Tower style of vibe, which, again, hot take, I agree with Reddit. At least the guy over on Reddit that dared post it, right? Blood on the Clock Tower is highly overrated. Anyway, talk about fighting in the comment section later, but that's what they're bringing to the table. And so we're going to see, but also in a different deduction style manner, Awkward Guests, which was another surprise hit from a couple years ago, which I bought and then sold because it wasn't a personal success for me, is coming back with the Berwick cases. Dice, mystery, deduction, solving the homicide of one of the Berwick twins, but also you have to orchestrate the murder of the other one at the same time. Okay, twist. I like it. But ultimately, I think those games aren't, the Awkward Guest ones, at least, are not for me, personally speaking. I'm willing to always give it a shot, but it's going to be interesting because it says it's a new, completely standalone game, specifically also more so for 2 players. Now, 2 players intrigues me. And if you can do that right, but this is also the type of game that I feel like hands-on is going to be the only way for you to know. Hands-on. How many of you are going to have hands-on before the crowdfunding campaign inevitably launches? Just think about that one for a second. Now, what else do we have going on? Steamforged. Steamforged. They acquired. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. They somehow got the license for Street Masters, which, they're crappy little miniatures. At least their miniatures are going to be an upgrade. Side tangent here. Crappy little miniatures. No, I just wish games would do without them. I just opened up tonight, prior to filming this afternoon, I ended up trading for a copy of Unmatched, the cooperative one of it, Tales to Amaze, whatever that one's called. The big like spider bat whatever enemy dude miniature is really cool. The rest of the little hero miniatures and like the little terrain miniatures, they're like Lucky Ducks with destinies. They're just not good. They're small. The details are poor. I don't see the need for that. I would kill for a standee or just a token instead. No miniatures are better than subpar miniatures. I don't care what game or system it is in the first place. And they're gray, and no one's going to paint those. You know you're not going to paint them. Again, fight me in the comments. So that's what's going on. But let's stay with Unmatched, though. That was a nice segue. I didn't even plan that. They announced, Unmatched, Restoration Games announced, this is probably the other biggest announcement in this whole video, Witcher. Witcher will be sometime in 2024. And I would assume retail. But as we've seen with the other Witchers, right? I think you'd be leaving money on the table if you didn't crowdfund. Now, the only wish I had with that was if you're going to crowdfund and you've already got the IP and your Restoration Games who's making bank off it at retail regardless, I would really hope that if you're going to crowdfund it, like have it turn around in like 6 months. Like there's no reason to come to crowdfunding and have this be a year and a half out. You know, again, you can argue with me, but that's a horrible trend we're seeing further and further out. Like some of the small companies where they're putting out their first or second, or they don't go to retail with some of their stuff, like Guards of Atlantis 2, right? Like I can understand they're going to come out a little earlier. But if you have a successful track record at retail in any sense or form, if you have any successful track record on crowdfunding, like I don't need to be perused or, you know, dipping into my wallet for you for a year and a half out anymore. Especially if you're going to charge me somewhere between $100 and $500 for a campaign. I know, right? Controversial thoughts and comments there. Again, someone will argue in the comment section about how it's wrong. But let's stay with Steamforged again. Let's go back right to them because they also just announced, I mean, got to give them some gumption here. They're going back to Dark Souls. Dark Souls is getting a remastered edition called The Sunless City. They're tweaking things. They're improving things. They're scrapping things and starting over. I don't know. But they've announced that they're going back to it, and we're going to see what else they can put out. No one argues about the miniature side of things with them. But was anybody happy with the gameplay of Dark Souls in the first place? You think of Dark Souls, you go over the forum sections, and the first things you see are like, hey, this is the house rule that I did. Hey, this is how we house... Like that's not what I want to see on any game whatsoever, period. And I think there's a lot of chutzpah, you know, to say, we're going to go back to this and try and make it better. Now, the problem is you're going to have people, you know, as they were doing over on Reddit and some of the forums, you know, trying to make themselves gag on just the announcement alone that, you know, swearing off Steamforged since they put this out in the first place and haven't given them a shot since. I am almost always, see what people can do. Mercy and grace. It's what we tell our kids, right? And this is no different. So, okay. It's again, I want to see it in front of me. I want to see how you've improved things, right? Because otherwise it feels like to me, it's a Tainted Grail 2.0 where have you really improved things? Or better yet, right? Etherfields 2.0. Did you really improve things? No, not really. But we said we did. And we kind of took some of it in suggestions. And then you got a second wave copy that was still, you know, pretty much the same as the first wave, except for slight changes overall. Nope. I can wait and see. Pick it up in the trade market, secondary. So what else we got new going on? KTBG, Kids Table Board Games, just announced over the weekend, because this is all what's coming out as well this weekend that I'm filming this, of PAX Unplayed, Lairs. Like a 2-player, build your own lair, knock out your opponent style of game, which a 2-player element of things. Sort of like the more recent one by Brother Wise Games, along the lines in their boss monster style of things. Or was that actually not them? Was that actually the Role Player Adventures Thunderworks? I can't remember. Very similar MOs there. But both of those styles of things, now we're going to see it from Kids Table. And like all the other Kids Table releases, except for the most recent Diced Veggies, I expect that one to go to crowdfunding as well. Although I'm still waiting for my copy of freaking Maple Valley. I've been kind of irritated at that. That's been in port or been in, you know, process for like a month and a half. Whoever they did for, you know, shipping that one, don't go to them again. Anyway, Burnt Island, though, as well, just announced their next title, How to Save a World. What? And again, this one's going to be crowdfunded sometime in 2024. And because it's listed in Board Game Geek as a 2025 right now. So I believe, based on the description here, 2 to 5 players, it looks to be, I'm just skimming the description here, worker placement as a definite mechanic, but I'm assuming cooperative? Hand building resource management. Assign workers to perform critical tasks, don't spill your drink on the keyboard, and spend action cards to advance your goals. And you're going to be doing a thrilling science fiction ride for 2 to 5 players, as an asteroid is coming trying to destroy the planet. Okay, so you have a razor thin chance of succeeding. Screams Bruce Willis in Armageddon, right? Only as a board game. So maybe that's the inspiration here. It sounds like it as a whole. But worker placement, if you can cooperate this one, okay. I'm intrigued. Burn Island, I'm intrigued. Few other little ones that have been announced recently. Tokyo Highway, the dexterity-based putting your cars on little roads game. That it got an expansion recently announced called Rainbow City. Then we're getting another expansion to a Tristan Hall or Nothing game in Creel Manor in the name of Wyvern Moor, which again, I believe is a 1-player game, but adaptable up to 2 players, if I'm remembering correctly, or maybe that's the one that's not adaptable to 2 players. Either way. And then Mistborn, the Brandon Sanderson, the very famous author, his IP is now coming to a deck building scene near you sometime in 2024. Crowdfunded? Question mark? Maybe. We'll see. I mean, you know me, deck builders. I'm, tugging at my heartstrings there every single time, but will not let an IP better my conscience, if you will, there. And then last up, we have Sonic Roll, a role-based Sonic Collect the Rings style game coming to crowdfunding sometime in 2024 as well. So that is all of the new stuff. Hype and hotness, anti-hype. Let's do it real quick. Board Game Geek, what do you got for me? John Company, 2nd edition. Shut Up and Sit Down did a review on it. People are like, this is such an under-the-radar game. The original is like 500th in Board Game Geek. Like, no, it's not accessible. This is another Shut Up and Sit Down game, and they do fantastic work. They are the most entertaining people on the internet, board game wise, period. You can't convince me otherwise. But the taste that they have and the taste that the general population has of even their subscribers is vastly different. So if you went out and bought John Company 2nd edition after you watched that, like, are you actually gonna, that's like going out and buying Root after the latest Root expansion comes out and gets all the hype. You're not going to be able to play it. You're not. It's too heavy. It's too long. It's too hard to learn for you, for me. Right? Anyway, Jin, latest worker placement heavy post Essen that didn't really get highly announced or highly acclaimed. It's making some waves. I watched one of the how to plays, one of the playthrough videos about a month ago. Way too heavy for me. Too many moving parts, too many worker placements, resource management style as a whole. Doubt it is our product, smoking-based game from Hollandspiel, one of those indie publishers, and it's making some hype for some reason as well. Heat Pedal to the Metal is still somehow trending. I don't know what the heck happens with that one as a whole. Nemesis Retaliation. If you missed my Don't Back It video, why you shouldn't back anything, I went into great detail, almost 10 minutes worth of detail, about why this campaign should not be backed by you. I did. Standee version looks great. I think the stretch goals and the value are worth it. But is it really going to fill that Nemesis potentially sized hole in your board gaming heart? No, it's not. You don't have enough room for it. You don't have anybody to play with it. This is going to be more of a slug 'em out, still with a little bit too much rules overhead as a whole. It's, I think, more of their line of thinking of the Cthulhu Death May Die, but I think it's still going to be too complicated to easily hit the table with a lot of people very quickly. So I would love to have a copy of it. I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that. But for the amount of people that are going to buy it and the amount of people that are going to, hype it up and play it for what it is and really love it and get repeated plays of it, how many times have you played Nemesis or Nemesis Lockdown in the first place? Is this the one that's going to change your mind in the first place if you didn't like the other ones, folks? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it really is. Maybe it's totally going to be the one that's going to change your mind whatsoever. And you can spend another 100 or 300 or maybe even get it sometime in 2026 with all the old stuff to make your heart really beat new with everything that you love. Right? I'm a little dizzy after doing that. Voidfall's still there. Have a review coming out hopefully before the end of the year of that. Apiary as well. Stonemeyer sent me a copy of Apiary. Hopefully by the end of the month I'll have that one out as well. And, the White Castle's still somehow trending. Dune Imperium Uprising. I'll probably do a comparison video of those two. I have a copy of that as well. And so is it really that much better? People say it's a little bit more complicated. It's backwards compatible with the expansions, which is super weird to me, by the way. Like, am I the only one that goes, that's kind of weird to put out a sequel expansion standalone and make it compatible with the other expansions? Right? Like, oh man, that's just weird. It's just weird to me. I'm the only one, though. Food chain magnet. Gamefound. Just before me filming this, they announced over on Gamefound the special edition. That's why this is trending, even though it's not the actual special edition copy link that's trending. It's just the regular one. They announced that they're doing a reduced pledge level with like wooden components with less of the plastic, and it's like 100 euros less. 100 euros less. Now you can only just pay what it's slightly above retail to get it for that. And people are like, they changed my mind. You know, I give them kudos though. Lucky duck. Listening to people. And I say this repeatedly, where complainers don't get rewarded. Complaining should not be often rewarded on crowdfunding. Complaining, folks. Legitimate critiquing, voicing your concerns in an appropriate adult manner is different than complaining. If you're complaining like my 8-year-old was tonight about the fact that he spent 4 hours at a birthday party instead of missing out on his half an hour of Nintendo Switch time, and when he got home because it was bedtime, that's not appropriate. But if you can offer some legit concerns, criticism, I think people should reconsider things. Not to say that they always need to. Like Marvel Dice Throne, like they polled people on whether or not they should redo the Deadpool miniature, and people said yes, overwhelmingly. And some of the original people, again, were throwing a fit. Take your bat and go home, but don't be a jerk online either. That's the bottom line of this. That's about it. There's not really anything else in the top 50 that's super interesting or there and you wouldn't expect it. Somehow people are buying up. I saw this because I was looking at it on Board Game Oracle. Someone was selling like Ticket to Ride Legacy for $110. And I was like, I know it's like almost 90 at retail. It's like all sold out. So did Arcane Wonders just not produce a lot of them? Or is that game actually being well received on a retail side of things? Now the weird thing was though, we'll side tangent this, right? Like this is a legacy game that someone bought. It was still new in stock and they're already reselling it. Like this is the problem with the hobby in a nutshell. And we'll end on this note. Like, why would you buy this in the first place? What made you think that this was a good idea? This is absolutely 100% what is wrong with this hobby is you buy it because you thought it was going to. You thought it should be. You thought it could. And it didn't because you're selling it new and shrink still. Not like you can really sell it at all if it's not new and shrink. Let's be frank about this because a legacy game isn't gonna... I've never seen anyone buy one of those pandemic legacy 1s or 2s where people's like, I played through one scenario or I played through 2 scenarios and then No, I mean, you can't even sell them for like 20% of the actual price at that point. That is not a game that came out a long time ago. That is not a game that hasn't had any significant hype. That is a game that was thrust upon you by the marketing, by the hype, by the here are the big people putting it out there as this is an awesome experience. And that's what you can't fall for. That's why, I don't want to call myself the anti-hype, but I mean, we can't do this. Can't do this. It's not great. It's not great. My kid went to a birthday party like I just mentioned, right? His mom told my wife, and she's like, hey, he's into board games. I was like, here's 4 board games. Here's 4 review copies of stuff that I've gotten. Here you go. Just gave them away. So here you go. It's fine. Hopefully he finds one he likes. Too many. And this is the other flip side of this, right? If I'm going to buy somebody's used game nowadays, like your price better be 50% of retail. Your price better be 50% of retail. Because if it's not, unless it's out of print, unless it's got something exclusive, I'll be honest with you, I don't even really look at it anymore. And I usually look at these trade lists before I even skim the whole thing. I see one game that I know about what that game should be priced if I'm going to get it. Or I know what that game goes for at retail. And if your price on that one that I really know isn't where it should be, right? Just like this Ticket to Ride Legacy one, right? $110. I knew that it was going for about 90 to 95 at most places when in stock. And you're charging 110? Okay, sure. But I'm not even going to look at the rest of your stuff at that point. Because if you're going to do it with that, you're probably going to do it at least, a little bit with all the other ones. Someone selling Onitama. I've been looking to pick up that abstract from Arcane Wonders for, a couple of months now. You know, it sells for about $21 at retail. You got people selling this small, tiny boxed game for $15 before shipping, right? $15 to $17 before shipping. Like, no. Like, no, folks. I'm sorry. If you want to get rid of games, sometimes you're going to take a loss on them. And that's the only way you're going to get rid of them. And you got to be okay with that. Otherwise, you're going to just do this. And you're not going to be accumulating games to play. You're just accumulating games. And that's why, well, that's not why we got in the hobby in the first place. There you go. Anti-hype, rants over, video over, done, fiend, news, all in a nutshell. I love this. These videos are so great for rants. I love it. Peace out. Have a great freaking day. If you made it this far, how did you not get subscribed to me already? Are we close to 9K yet? I haven't looked in like a week or two. I don't look at my view counts. That makes me more anxious than anything. I just don't even look anymore. So I probably should have split off that Nemesis Shoot You Back and the DC United or DC Zombicide ones. It's just its own separate video too, separately, just to get more clicks and views, right? That would have been the easy thing to do, because I'm sure I didn't even look on the DC or the Nemesis pages for videos, because I'm sure there's like 3 of those videos on each page or 4 of them about whether or not you should back it. And I just decided, even though I sort of joked about it in the video when they launched about making easy content from that, I just said, screw it, you know? Screw it. You know, put them all in one. Make it easier for you guys too. There you go. Stay classy. Great freaking day. Didn't spill this on my laptop, even though it tried to spill. It was close. I'll swallow that bullet right now.